I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know some folks are gonna stream in as well. As I mentioned just now, I'm Brian Van Hook. I'm Regional Director of Florida Small Business Development Center at FIU. We are a center under FIU's College of Business. And what we do is we help businesses in the community that want to grow. So we can help you in terms of access to capital, government contracts, international trade, marketing, obviously strategy and operations. And we have a really great team of specialists in different areas that are here to help you. Obviously now, like all the other groups, we're focused on disaster recovery and helping businesses to kind of survive the pandemic. And so if we can assist you, feel free to reach out to myself or to Brianna, because our team is definitely here to help you out. We provide no-cost services. But also one of my favorite partnerships that we have is with Orlando Espinosa and M&AO Media in terms of some of these trainings and workshops that we do in the community. And obviously we've shifted to webinars, but Orlando is a very dynamic speaker. Pretty much I always joke, he's almost more popular than the city Orlando. And that's saying a lot because there is Disney, there's Universal, there's a lot of other stuff in Orlando. But these presentations and these webinars, we're getting really great feedback from the attendees. And they're basically like, I want more topics, I want more content, but also Orlando, to be fair, they're like, I want more Orlando. So we're happy to kind of partner with him on this. And the topic today is on breathing life into your brand. Of course, everybody is focused on kind of, reinventing the business and kind of pivoting and strategy. And obviously a lot of that is going to involve marketing and kind of your brand. So it's a very timely workshop. And I think one of the attendees just asked for my name again. Yeah, my name is Brian Van Hook, and I'm Regional Director of the Center. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Orlando because you guys didn't log on to hear me talk. You want to hear him and his presentation. So I'm going to just turn it over to Orlando and just thank you for participating.
And thank you, Brian. This is one of, I guess, my favorite presentations to do. I've been doing this for, I would say maybe 7, 8 years, maybe longer than that. One of the things that I would encourage a lot of you to do is what we did on Tuesday. A lot of you are putting your names and business name in the actual Q&A. So if you feel free to go in and write that as well, so you can actually start networking with one another. There is a section that I cover on that. Today's presentation is going to be extremely visual for those of you that love to learn visually. And there's a lot of great things. I'm a visual learner. I like the aspect of learning like that. So let's go ahead without further ado. Let's go ahead and get started. There's a lot of content. I'm not going to read over all of the content because Brianna is going to share the presentation with all of you. So consider this homework. Consider this an opportunity for you to take with you. So let's go ahead and let's get started. As Brian says, my name is Orlando Espinosa. A lot of people know me as Orlando in Miami. But let's talk a little bit about what is a brand. A brand pretty much is going to be an opportunity. It's an effort for you to give a unique identity to your company's products, services, and it's pretty much an emotional attachment that we have with brands. I know that a lot of us are extremely loyal to a brand because what it represents, what it does. And the key to a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is for all of you to take an in-depth look into your brand, into your business, and to identify what does your brand actually stand for so that you can make it part of your marketing effort. Because I know that when it comes to loyalty, my mom is loyal to Gain. When it comes to washing clothes, my father is loyal to Charmin. Do not shift or change his toilet paper because he will know. And we're actually going to make it a little fun for you so that you can see what it entails and everything. So before we get started, let's take a test and write down the first business that comes to mind when we say fast food, when we say cola, when we say soup, or home improvement store. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to turn around and process that. And now, how many of you actually said McDonald's when it came to fast food? How many of you actually said Coca-Cola? How many said Campbell's? And how many of you said Home Depot? The thing that happens with a lot of us as business owners, as people that come in and we want to buy things, we do get into that frame of mind where there's a lot of things that actually create an opportunity for us to remember that brand. There's other brands out there people are drawn to: Burger King, Wendy's, KFC, Chick-fil-A. I mean, why not Pepsi, or 7-Up, or RC, or even Progresso? When you think of Progresso soup, you can remember the commercials of people one can with another can, and they want to talk to their grandmother because of the soup being organic, homemade. Or even Lipton. When you think of Lipton, I always think of tea, or even dip, or when it comes to Lowe's, Home Depots. So the key thing is making sure that now that you understand that there's a lot of things that just resonate with us when it comes to branding. The thing that you have to keep in mind is, how is your brand going to come in and resonate with customers? So there's forms of brand knowledge. So the brand awareness is whether a brand name comes to mind when customers think about a particular product category, the ease with which the name is evoked, the brand image, the type of associations that come to the consumer's mind when contemplating a particular brand, or even the top of mind, when that's the first thing that automatically, when you're thinking of a product or service, that's the main thing people think of, or customers. And I think that that's one of the main things that you have to understand when you have a brand that's pretty much idle, that's not much happening with it. How can you breathe life into it, and how can you actually make it resonate with your customers? So this is a great question that I've thought about. So there are only two ways to influence human behavior: manipulation and inspiration. So which creates brand loyalty. So every time I ask this, and we make this extremely interactive, a lot of people always go towards the inspiration. I want to inspire people. I want people to understand what my brand does. But you have to also understand that some brands need to manipulate. 9 out of 10 dentists say that if you don't brush your teeth, they're going to fall out. So you're being manipulated in order to select a specific toothbrush, or you're being manipulated when it comes to, let's say, auto repair, that if you don't actually come in and change the oil, or rotate your tires, you can have an accident, or so forth. So we do, and we can create loyalty by either or. You always have to keep in mind that whatever product or services you are actually providing, you will be able to balance either or actually even both. So the great thing about a brand is that every brand has a story. So my thing is, ask yourself as business owner, why did you start your business to begin with? Why are you in business? Why are you providing the products or services that you provide? So ask yourself, what's your story? Why are you in business? Because that plays a big role when it comes to your brand, when it comes to the products and the services that you provide. So the main thing is making sure that as business owners, you understand the why your business started. One of the reasons that I do what I do is simple. I think that what happens in across the nation, a lot of people are being taken advantage of when it comes to resources, information. Everybody wants to put a price tag on information. And I think that the main thing is that information is free. I've learned how to dissect information, simplify it, and give it back to people, because what I want my legacy to be, and part of our story, is that we didn't hoard the information that was given to us, but we simplified it for our clients and customers that we work with. So the meaning of brand. So there's a big thing out there that people come in and they start talking about, the logos and everything that goes out there. But before we get into that, your brand has to be meaningful. It has to be different. It has to be believable, transcendent, consistently experienced. So you can actually add your experience, your knowledge to the brand that you're actually promoting, bringing to the forefront. The added value that your brand can actually bring to, it has to be clearly articulated, definitely, used as a tool and operationalized. Once people know what your brand can do for them, the main thing that you want to build is that loyalty and that connection. So brands are much more than logos. Everybody believes that their brand is just coming in and looking at a logo and saying, that's my brand. These are some of the more popular logos out there. Brands are much more than slogans. Everybody remembers a slogan. When it comes to Harley Davidson, American by birth, rebel by choice. Nike, just do it. M&M's, melts in your mouth, not in your hands. And even where it goes to Levi's, quality never goes out of style. And if you look at the last one, Burger King, and you might want to Google this. Burger King actually changed their logo or their slogan after years. And it was consistent, have it your way. They even had the nice little jingle song. So they changed it to be your way or something to that effect. I really don't remember because honestly, have it your way has been embedded in my mind for so many years. So I think that that's one of the main things that you have to look at. If you are going to create a slogan, make it memorable so that people can actually remember you. So companies actually spend millions of dollars when it comes to a unique, compelling logo. I know that I've heard a lot of people say, well, I got my logo on Fiverr. I spent $5. And listen, that's okay for starters. But the main thing that I would encourage you is to look now at what companies are actually spending when it comes to the meaning of their brand and what it represents. So you look at the Coca-Cola logo, it was $0. It was actually created by one of their employees. You look at Google, same way. Google actually zero. The Nike swoosh, $35. The London Olympics, $625,000 for this. And I've gone in and a lot of people have actually made fun of the logo. And for those of you that like to research and so forth, just research this logo and you're gonna find the correlation that it has to The Simpsons, the cartoon series. Pepsi spent $1 million for this actual logo. And if you look at it, it pretty much looks like a beach ball. The British Broadcasting Company, the BBC, they spent $1.8 million for the blocks that you're seeing right now. BP, British Petroleum, spent $211 million within this logo that looks like, I guess, sunflower. The main thing that you have to understand is that companies take this so serious, and what happens to a lot of businesses, we actually aren't taking it serious. We actually come in and say, well, I got mine done, not by a professional, but I just paid $5 for XYZ. And I think that the main thing you have to keep in mind as business owners is what's the value of your logo and what is it that you are actually putting into. So when I tell people, if you got something in Fiverr to get an idea, it's okay, but keep in mind that you need to go to a professional to actually get your ideas into what it is that you want your logo to represent. So even the stories behind, if you look at Amazon and you look at the A to Z, pretty much even the hidden story behind Amazon is that they want the public to know that they carry everything from A to Z. So some of the hidden messages when it comes to an actual logo, Hershey's Kisses. And if you look at Hershey's Kisses, between the K and the I, there's an actual Hershey's Kiss there. So this is to get people talking about a brand and to actually communicate and to look to see the hidden messages to what it is. And it's pretty much a talking point. If you look at Google, what Google actually does, that they went in and they changed the primary colors pattern. And what they did, they got a secondary color of green. So they wanted to show their playfulness and pretty much that Google doesn't play by the rules. So the simplification of something like this, then you look at the Tour de France and the Tour de France logo, actually, if you look at the R in the front, it actually has a biker that comes in and you look at the wheels from the bike. You've got Goodwill and Goodwill, if you look at it, the G in the Goodwill is part of the smiley face. It's pretty much a crop slightly G when it comes to their logo. And if you look at FedEx between the E and the X, you actually have the forward thinking. You have an arrow that they're forward moving when it comes to business. Baskin Robbins. You look at Baskin Robbins with the B and the R, the 31 flavors. And I will tell you that I've been to Baskin Robbins and I've counted sometimes and they have had more than 31 flavors. But the main thing is that these are actual references that people come in and they start talking and sharing. So you need to ask yourself, are there any hidden messages within your logo that people can talk about, that they can come in and ask you, hey, well, why did you select this? Why do you have that? Another one of my favorites, Tostitos. And if you look at Tostito, the T's in Tostito, it's two people actually sharing a bowl of salsa. And you look at the chip in between their actual hands, T's. And one of the things that I always encourage people is when someone comes up to you and they ask you, well, why did you pick your name? Or why did you pick the actual logo that you have? You want to start a conversation. So look at the zoos. And I added these because if you look at the Bronx Zoo, the legs of the giraffe are actually buildings. And if you look at the Pittsburgh Zoo and the aquarium, you look at the gorilla, you look at the lion, but you can see the fish at the bottom. You can see the birds and so forth when it comes to their logo. And a lot of this is a point of conversation. So for those of you that probably have a stale logo that you probably came in and decided, well, this is how I started. I wanted to morph, or even if you do have an idea as to why you started, it's a conversation piece. So I wanted to actually share our logo and the meaning behind it. So the name of our company, as Brian mentioned, is M&L Media. And the word M&L is a Latin word that means to stand out, to be remarkable, to be conspicuous. So if you look at the E in M&L, it's name of my business partner, Scott Eric Tubbs, and the O represents me, Orlando. So the word in the middle is mine. So what are we? We're miners. We come into government agencies, municipalities, and nonprofits, and we excavate and find the precious jewels that they have to help them market their brand. And when people come up to me, they're just asking questions. Then you look at the windmill that we have there, which represents ongoing creativity. Because I think that one of the main things is that every time someone comes up to me, they're either trying to pronounce the name, M&A, well, how did you come up with the name? And it is a conversation piece, because what happens to a lot of businesses, all we do is sell when we network, when we talk to people, but we really don't have a conversation piece. And this has actually been a conversation piece for me with a lot of people that I've worked with. And I think that that's one of the key things. So if you look at what a lot of people are doing, they're coming in and they're just trying to make themselves relevant. And Daniel, to your point, the $200 million that BP spent was, remember the fiasco of the oil spill that happened on the in the Gulf of Mexico? They wanted to shift and change their brand. So they came in, and my thought is they sat down, had meetings, and they wanted just to come in and give a new look. And someone must have said, hey, let's come in and do something that's different, that's going to resonate. And they were willing to pay that amount of money. I'm still trying to figure out where the value is of the 200 million, but they were willing to spend that. So let's look at brand perception. So this is something that you have to look at, even with the name that you have. What's the perception that people have? I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just want you to visually see what's what. So this is supposed to be pool life. And as you can see, when you read it, it doesn't look like pool life. It looked like poo life. And the other ones are going to be self-explanatory. I'm not going to go into a lot of it. But if you look at this, this is supposed to be grape nuts. The G doesn't actually even stand out. So when you look at, you're looking at the word in the center that pretty much, resonates, and it's the word rape. If you look at junior jazz dance classes, for those of you, you look at two stick figures. For other people, they're seeing actually the outline of a woman. And the key thing is that maybe they did that on purpose, maybe not. But one thing that I always encourage people when it comes to branding, stay away from stick figures, because stick figures can come in and cause all kind of confusion when it comes to your brand. So if you look at this, if you look at the Arlington Pediatric Center, and you look at the stick figures, some people find it offensive. Most people would say, I would not take my child there. If you look at the Clínica Dental, the way that the stick figures are actually positioned, or even in Japan, the pharmacy, you have to come in and make an assessment of your logo, your brand, and what it looks like, because sometimes people are looking at things that may be offensive to them. Now, if you are coming in and do the shock treatment, then that's your choice. But keep in mind that a lot of this is going to be left to interpretation. Even when it comes to fonts, when you come in and look at, and if your business is just a font, you've got great fonts like Disney, you've got Cartier, you've got Gillette, that they're memorable and they're used correctly. Now, this is an old video not video, but an image that I found. And if you look at it, it's supposed to say Megaflix, but if you see how the L and the I are actually attached together, someone may come in and read it as a totally different word. something that they may find offensive. Then you have the way the words are spaced. This is supposed to be the kids exchange, but because they've got the words all tied together, some people can actually read it differently and read it as kids sex change. Then you look at this. This is supposed to be fast taco, but if you look at it, it sort of kind of looks like an R, and it can be interpreted as fart taco. Then the other thing is for those of us that come from other countries, and we have a specific brand that we probably came in and we transitioned and brought it here. The one thing that you don't want to do is that you want to make sure what it means. And I will tell you this. I know a lot of people out there, they want to reach a different market. They want to come in and reach, a diverse language. Do not use Google Translate on your website to translate content. You will offend someone. You are going to come in and cause someone to just be offended because every word means something totally different in different languages. So pay someone to translate your website, whether Creole, Spanish, French, whatever it is that you may want to do. And if you do have a brand that you actually are trying to sell that may have a different meaning in other places, I'm actually going to come in and go through how nationally or internationally, look at the names of some brands that they got lost in translation. First one, and these are actual brands. Urinal, hot drink. I don't know how many people want a hot drink from the urinal. I don't. The way that it's pronounced, I'm not even going to pronounce it because I don't want to cuss on the video. P-Cola. And like I said, these are a lot of international brands out there, but I've seen some in the States that are questionable. If you look at the way this is written, and see, this to me sort of kind of works because it's crap, but the way that it's written, maybe they were intentional with the naming of this, or even this one, Uranus, and their slogan out there, it says it's, milk chocolate from Uranus, it's out of this world, which is questionable. I would not eat that chocolate. And I actually tried the chocolate when I was actually in Europe. It's Belgian chocolate. But keep in mind, it works for them where they're at. But internationally, if you're looking to have an international brand, what does your brand mean to other people and other entities? So I wanted to talk about also blunders. And the reason why I'm sharing a lot of this is that for you to look at how some companies have actually made mistakes, big companies. So give yourself permission to come in and make an assessment of your brand, where it was at, and if it's evolved in any type of way. So these are some blunders. So Walmart, a couple of years ago, Walmart actually had on their website a category, and they called it Fat Girl Costumes. By the time the company apologized and changed the page, the brand damage was already done. So Walmart has had blunders within their branding. Malaysian Air, a lot of you remember the Malaysian Air, the flights that were lost, 2 of them. Well, they thought that it was great to come in and create a bucket list ad. And the question that they asked was, in tweets, what places would you like to see before you die? And for me, it's like, listen, I don't know about anybody, but I want to see the airport. And I wouldn't cut on an airplane that you may come in and think, well, that's insensitive. And sometimes it gets lost in translation. So you have to be mindful what you send out, what information goes out there. So these are blunders from Malaysian Air. And this is Panasonic when they actually came in and they were trying to get into the competitive market. So they actually selected Woody Woodpecker as their mascot, but they were looking at words and themes like Touch Woody, the internet pecker that, for any of us, what we understand the slang and the connotation of where it represents. So I think that that's one of the main things that you have to look at within your business and your company, that other companies have created blunders, but you need to make an assessment of where your business is at right now to ensure that if you have made mistakes, that you rectify them. So that's another thing that I want you to look at is check your brand before you send anything out. Have another pair of eyes look at it. So this is actually a very famous French company. And you look at the great pictures of the kids out there, but when this went to printing, nobody noticed the naked gentleman in the back. Now, what they did was this blunder, they rectified it by going in and saying, hey, oops, we made a mistake, you know, but as our brand ambassadors, we want to bring you into the conversation and highlight any other mistakes that we've made. Because if you are a solopreneur, if you're in business by yourself and you may say, hey, Orlando, I don't have someone to help me with the branding, the marketing, make sure that you get another pair of eyes, because a lot of this can be avoided. Even when it comes to writing, when you look at the Big Apple, meet the big Angus, it's supposed to say Angus, but it says anus. And once again, that's McDonald's. If you look at sheets, I take a sheet in the pool. And for those of us that probably speak with an accent, we may come in and say, I take a shit in the pool. So keep in mind that even when it comes to wording, there are certain words that I can say, and there's certain words that I can't say. So I try to avoid them so as not to be offensive. And even, you know what, if you look at Let's Go, once again, Old Navy, an apostrophe that they should have added to Let's Go. So your brand is extremely vital. And there's a difference between coming in and posting something online and forgetting something, but you actually just created this on a cotton or polyester shirt. So you have to be extremely mindful. Even when you place ads, this is actually one of my favorites, because if you look at it, the right is pretty much, you know, a tissue for someone that, you know, it's got a cold, for NyQuil. And then if you look at the post-workout power and the way that it's positioned, not a good idea. And then if you look at H&M, and even when it comes to spelling, the word genius, whoever actually came up with this was not a genius, because the word genius is actually spelled wrong. So even this local, when you have something printed, if you look at this, it's supposed to say super hitters, but the way that the S is, you know, what written with the larger, and you can read it for yourself. I don't, like I said, this is being recorded. I don't want to say anything. Miller, and then the tasty contradiction or contradiction. So I think that they were going more for a Spanglish, you know what, effect here. But even the words that you come out to represent your brand, your business, you know what, it matters. So let's talk about defining your brand. So, and I use this more so for you to make an assessment of your brand, where it's at, what it represents, and to make sure that it doesn't reflect any of what I just talked about. So even when it comes to colors, one of the key things that when it comes to psychology, colors mean different things when it comes to the appetite, when it comes to the attention and so forth. So I actually have numerous color wheels. So let's look at red. I'm not going to go through all of this because Brianna is going to share this with you. But red is a physical color which calls for action to be taken. It's high energy and strength draws attention to itself, and it demands to be noticed. So if you look at taking action, so one of the slides when we did the test, if you look at KFC, red. If you look at McDonald's, red. If you look at Burger King, red. Wendy's, red. Chick-fil-A, red. Pizza Hut, red. So all of these entities that you know that red, it's a color that's going to be noticed, and it says take action. When you look at orange, orange is an adventure. So when you think of an adventure, for those of us that are not inclined to fix and do things, I think that one of the things that you have to look at is I started processing this in my head. So when I think of adventure, I think of Nickelodeon. I also think of Home Depot. It's an adventure. I'm going to go and fix something. And then 9 out of 10 times I come back home and I have to call an actual professional to come in and help and assist, because I actually made a mess of it. So blue is the safest color to use in most applications, implying honesty, trust, and dependability. So reflect on what colors does your business have when it comes to your logo and what it represents. So here's a couple of other actual colors here in the color scheme of wheel. Turquoise, indigo, purple, magenta, pink. I won't go into all of those, But if you look at brown, and let's go over brown where it says brown is a strong, reassuring color that is comforting and reliable. It relates well to businesses that promote down to earth and outdoor products and activities. So when it says reliable, you think of UPS. And sometimes for you and your business, you may come in and you probably have already picked these colors, not knowing what they actually represent. But what I wanted to show you was this. And look at how all of these companies understand the value of the colors when it comes to their brand and how they select and pick the colors that they do. So there is a psychology behind the selection of a brand. There is a psychology behind the selection of a color wheel and why it's extremely important for you as business owners to come in and choose something that's going to reflect your business, your brand, and it's actually going to attract the demographic that you're actually looking for. So one of the things that we start talking about when we talk about branding is to actually identify your brand. So make sure that you start identifying or defining your brand, review the products, the services that you have, what you offer, what space you have in the market, and how are people resonating to your logo, to your brand, to what it is that you've done, and get some feedback because your brand's character should promote. And just as an FYI, I think that one of the things that a lot of people fail to realize is that you have to create something that's going to make you different in the marketplace. It's going to actually help you stand out. So think of your brand as a person. The reason being is that if you give your brand life, then other people will build a relationship with the brand because your brand has character. How many of you find yourself promoting someone else's brand or coming in and sharing because you realize that you like the personality? One of my favorite brands to follow on Twitter is Wendy's, because Wendy's actually has some really great responses to questions and so forth. And they've given Wendy's actually life when it comes to the interaction that it does and provides with other people. So keep in mind, the reason why you give your brand a voice and think of it as a person, who's interacting with your clients and your customers on your social media platform, who is responding. You don't want to be robotic. You want to be genuine. You want to be real so that people can come in and talk about your brand and say, I love XYZ, because, it's rare to actually interact with a brand that actually has a voice. So consider what's driving your business. Who's buying from you? What does your business believe in? What's the purpose? And who are your brand heroes? So think about some of the brands that you're so loyal to that you will not deviate, that you will not shift or change from. And think about the establishment. Like for me, when I travel overseas, I normally don't go to McDonald's, but I love to see the Golden Arches. And when I see the Golden Arches, I know that if I want something of comfort or something that's, not good for me, I go there. So I spent 4 months in Europe, and I was in Sweden for some of that time. And I just wanted an egg. I wanted an egg for breakfast. And it's funny that I was there with a group of people and we ended up going to McDonald's just to get an egg McMuffin. And I didn't want coffee. I wanted a Coca-Cola, and I wanted it with a lot of ice. And the thing is that we're so conditioned when it comes here to a specific brand that it's that comfort level. Now, mind you, I don't encourage people to go overseas and eat food that we have here, but for that specific moment, it actually played its role. So that's the emotion that you can actually have and that you can identify. So what is it that you're doing to drive business with people that actually identify with your brand? Because what you're going to do is you don't want someone to come in and buy from you today. You want longevity. You want people to come in and keep buying from you. You want people to come in and be repeat customers. So what you want to do is create trust when it comes to your brand. If you make a mistake, own up to it. Don't hide it. Don't blame someone else. Come in and say, hey, listen, my mistake. I want to be able to come in and make it right and build that relationship with people. I know companies that come in and they argue, fight with customers, and they never end up winning. So keep in mind, what are the values of your business and your brand and what does it represent? And speak with consistency. What you never want to be is wishy-washy. Reinforce the character of your business. Clarify what you offer so that customers know. I talk to a lot of businesses, and one of the things that they do is that they've got 5, 10, 15 revenue streams. And I sell this, but I sell that, but I have this business, and I also have this business, but I do this and I do that. And sometimes it just confuses your customers because nobody knows what do you offer. So I've spoken to people that when you come in, they sell insurance, but then they sell houses, but then they fix taxes, but then they also come in and they do credit repair, and then they also do XYZ. The thing is that when you offer too many services, people may want to do that because they want to become a one-stop shop, but what it does, it confuses your customers and it doesn't lend itself to have a consistent voice. Now, mind you, I'm not against people making money and using your different aspects of talents and so forth, but keep in mind, how can you tie all of that together so that people can come in and say, hey, I'm going to this business because I can get all of these services under one umbrella and I don't have to go to other places because I trust this person. So how can you tie all of that together so that it comes under one voice? And it's not just everything that you sell or services that you provide, but you providing something of consistency to people. They just may want to work with one brand. And the one thing is, don't be repetitive. I hear and I see a lot of people that they're posting online, and the same thing they post on Twitter, they post on Facebook, they post on Instagram, they post everywhere. And the key thing is that that's not going to lend itself to build a relationship, because certain customers that are on Facebook are not the same ones on Instagram, are not the same ones that are in Twitter and other platforms or LinkedIn. So one thing is that you want to have a key message that actually it's cohesive and coherent, but you want to make sure that you're giving voices and interacting. The one thing that you never want to do as a brand is to stay silent and not respond. Don't try to mimic what other brands are doing. I've seen other people try to mimic what Wendy's doing, and a lot of them have failed miserably because it's not in their wheel of talent. So if you have a specific identity, stick to it. Do not deviate. Do not change from that, and come in and continue promoting that. I pride myself in what the work that we do with the level of integrity. And I've shared with this, a lot of the clients that I work with, the organizations, the municipalities, the government agencies, they're my clients. So I don't come in and try to, sell to the customers that are coming to the webinars or the workshops and so forth, because that's not what I do. So I stick to the level of integrity, because what happens with a lot of other brands, they're just trying to figure out to see how they can make money. And that's okay. I'm not against people making money, but I think that one of the main things that you have to keep in mind is that for us, we're trying to be original and authentic with what we do, but that's because it aligns with who I am and the actual brand that we're actually marketing. Be bold, innovative, and daring. Add your personality to what you're doing, whatever you stand for. Make sure that your brand represents that. One of the things that happens with a lot of businesses is that they become fickle. That one day they stand for this, the next day they stand for that. And I respect a brand that stands for something and they don't deviate from it, because they've got too many layers. So when it comes to your brand, listen to your customers, your clients, be innovative, do new things, and be daring. The one thing that you can't do is sit in a corner and let the competition come in and walk all over you because you actually haven't given your brand a voice. And don't cheapen the brand. I've seen a lot of people when they come in, events and everything, it's almost like their brand, went in and they're just promoting discounts everywhere. I'm not opposed to you coming in and giving someone a deal, treating them differently because it's a new prospect or so forth. But when you come in and you start cheapening everything that you do and discount prices on this, discount prices on that. I wrote a blog article years ago, and I actually titled it, "Are You on Clearance?" And the meat of the blog was that the moment that you put yourself on the clearance rack, the world's not going to raise your prices. I don't know of anybody that goes to to Marshalls or actually Kohl's or Ross, and they go to the cashier and they say, hey, I want to pay the original price. No, everybody's going for that deal. So the moment that you cheapen your brand, a lot of people are not going to be willing to pay more when it comes to the actual worth of the brand. So don't cheapen it. If you want to run a special, it's okay. If you want to come in and say, hey, there's a promotion, we're running this, we're doing this, it's okay. But don't come in and just keep slashing everything. I do actually have a story to share. One of the students from the Emerging Leaders Program, she called me and she had this company that she was working with. I'm not going to go into too much details. And it was like the company kept saying, hey, nope, we don't want this, we want this, we want this. No, and they actually wanted to keep cheapening what it was that they were doing. So I said, listen, stop doing that. You know what? You're not on clearance. You're going to come in, reevaluate your original quote, your proposal, and add your time, because you didn't have your time added to it. Correct? Yes. And send it back to them and saying, thank you very much, but this is the final price and I'm not going to deviate. But if you want to go with someone else that's willing to meet your prices, then feel free to go with them. Sometimes you have to stand on what you believe in so that you actually don't come in and lose money. Well, this person did that and they figured out that they were going to be losing money on it. And they came back and saying, oh, no, let's go to this. Nope, this is my final offer. Like I said, you can go to someone else. They actually ended up getting the contract because they stood their ground. People are going to try to see what they can get away with. And sometimes you have to stand your ground and not cheapen your brand. And the other thing that you don't want to do is that you don't want to be a walking billboard, everything that you do. It's okay to have a shirt. It's okay to come in and talk about. But I've seen people that every time you talk to them, it's almost as if it's their brand, their logo is on everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes your voice has to be part of the brand. So what comes out of your mouth, what you're saying is ideal. And once again, I'm not against you coming in and having a logo and having a face mask with your logo or a t-shirt with your logo. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is I've seen people with a hat that's got their logo. I've seen people with the face mask that's got their logo. I've seen people with the shirts and they're wearing it all at the same time. And sometimes that type of everything logo marketing is a hindrance because sometimes people walk away. The reason what you want to do is that you also want to wear something that highlights and give other people an opportunity to ask you questions and then let them become your ambassadors and reveal and give them a t-shirt, give them a hat, give them something so that they in turn will be the ones that actually market and promote what it is that you're doing. So let's go to the online branding. Now you have all of this together and you actually decided, hey, I'm going to move forward. So now you ask yourself, now Orlando, I went in, I made an assessment of my brand. Now I need to start figuring out where's the best place for me to actually see where my brand is found. So it doesn't matter. As long as you have an online presence, you're going to be found anywhere. And I highlighted this just so that you can see where your brand can be found. And what happens with a lot of businesses is that they're confused because they're trying to figure out, okay, so should I be on Twitter? Should I be on YouTube? Should I actually be on Pinterest? What is it? One thing is, and I always tell people this, make an assessment and start slowly, because the main thing you have to do is orchestrate a plan. How do you orchestrate a plan? Keep it simple. The first thing that you do is, as a business and as a professional, I would come in and encourage to start saying, hey, I'm looking at what's going online and where people are buying and where they're not. So I use this so you can make an assessment to see where people are actually spending their time and what happens every 60 seconds. So the one thing that I encourage people to keep it simple is come in and realize that everything that you do is a branding effort. Everything that the way you answer your phone, from your logo to how you actually communicate with other people, what comes out of your mouth, it will come in and give you an opportunity to share your voice, even when it comes to being known in the community and when it comes to your branding efforts. So one of the things I always encourage people to simplify, start with a website. Nowadays, people talk about word of mouth. Word of mouth works, but people will come in and Google you or go directly to your website. So make sure that you do have a website that it actually works. One thing I will encourage you, if you are paying for a website on Wix or any others, that it doesn't say at the bottom powered by XYZ. Why? Because you don't want to cheapen your brand, because the first thing that I'm going to say, oh, well, this is someone that doesn't want to pay the extra amount of money for XYZ. If you want to build your own website, that's okay. But make sure that you have a website. The second thing is when you start coming out and pushing and promoting things, I always encourage people, your website, then on LinkedIn, because on LinkedIn, you can actually highlight your professionalism, what you do and what it entails and so forth. And then the third one, where are your clients and where can you actually find them? And one thing, make sure that whatever you do, it's smartphone compatible, because more and more people are spending more time on their cell phones. So make sure that your website, it reads and it's actually compatible to mobile friendly. The same thing when it comes to your emails and everything that you're actually doing. So simplify it. And then once you identify with what it is that you're doing, I said, okay, now I understand everything. I'm online. Now when it comes to marketing, your brand, identify who your target market is, what you want your customers to say about your brand, what is the unique selling proposition of your brand, and where are you actually selling? That's why once you understand, if your clients are on Facebook, if they're on LinkedIn, if they are on Pinterest, or maybe you might want to create a YouTube channel to share videos. Once you understand who your target market is, that's where it's going to be easier for you to market and promote your brand. Look at the resources that you have, because it does take resources. And if you don't have money, it takes effort. You need to come in and start building word of mouth relationships. I do encourage people when it comes to their brand to write articles, to post, promote, share, to get other people talking. And if you do have an unlimited budget and you have plenty of money, it's going to pretty much require the same thing, but you do have money to spend. And one thing that I will tell you that I've spoken to a lot of businesses is very few customers or people know what it is that you do. I know that a lot of times we don't want to sell to family or friends, but if they don't know what products or services you provide. So if you're a realtor and someone comes in and says all of a sudden, hey, I want to come in and I just sold my house. Imagine a family member coming to you and saying that they just sold their house and you're a realtor, but because they didn't know what it is that you do. And I do believe that it's a great opportunity for a lot of you to come in and say, hey, this is an opportunity for me to let other people know. Your church, neighbors, mentors, anybody, you have to come in and let people know. And mind you, I'm not talking about coming in and shoving it down people's throats. I do see a lot of people on social media that what they do is that on their Facebook page, actual account, they're promoting their business. I would encourage you to create a Facebook page, and then you can actually share certain posts and so forth, but you don't want it to just be sell, because a lot of times what I said, you don't want to make people sick of your brand before you actually get started. And the key thing I will tell you is network. Right now, there's so many opportunities out there. Attend networking events, write down who you're talking to, share in the chat who you are, what you do, what you bring to the table. Introduce yourself. The one thing that you cannot be is shy, because if you are shy and you're not giving your brand a voice, it's going to be detrimental, because then no one knows that you exist. So transforming a brand into a socially responsible leader doesn't happen overnight by simply writing new marketing and advertising strategy. It takes effort to identify a vision that your customers will find credible and align with your values. So if you look at this is Cookie Monster, and what it is his girlfriend, spouse, significant other give him? Crackers. He loves cookies. So you have to be mindful of what your brand represents so that you don't confuse the masses. And sometimes when it comes to breathing life into your brand, you have to simplify it. You have to simplify it for other people, because other people may come in and not understand specifically what it is that you're trying to say and what it is that you're trying to do. And the other thing is define what your brand stands for, its core values and tone of voice, and then communicate consistently in those terms. Be consistent when it comes to your brand, when it comes to your marketing. Do not overcomplicate what it is that you're doing. Do not overthink, and don't give people 10, 15, 20 different versions of what it is that you do. Be consistent with that. So this is pretty much the overall. Like I said, I've done this presentation 3 hours, a little bit more hands-on, because we actually talk about the specific brands, what it does, what it represents, your own personal brand. If you want to come in and send me a copy of your logo, anything, that's my email, cell phone as well. I've got a program on my cell phone that if your number's not saved, it doesn't ring. But send me your logo, send me your information. I will be more than happy to come in and look at what it is that you do, what you provide for. And I will tell you, honestly, don't overthink it. And if you want some positive feedback, I'll be more than happy to provide some of that. So let's open it up to questions, any questions that people have. We've got 6 minutes. I want to be mindful of your time. Are there any questions that are out there? Like I said, this presentation, I do it more as a visual, because a lot of times as business owners, we're just trying to figure out visually what our brand represents and what it looks like. So any questions? If you have questions, write them in the actual chat. Thank you, Luisa, for writing down what it is that you do. VMAC Mechanical Contractors. And thank you, Antoinette, also for posting as well that you own a sign language interpreting agency. So are there any questions, anything that you may have that's pressing, that you say I have to come in and share? And I think that's one of the main things that you want to do, is that you want to make sure that your brand represents you, that your brand reflects who you are and what you bring to the table. This is actually going to be the wrap up of all of the webinars that we've been doing. We are working on a couple of other topics of conversation. I'm working with Brianna and Brian and a couple of other people to come up with other webinars. If you have any suggestions, you can email me, send me any information. Antoinette, I know that I owe you an email, but I will go ahead and get to it today that I've got a little bit more time. Thank you for emailing me. And one of the key things is make sure, for those of you that are in business, look at the colors of your business and what it represents. Elizabeth, thank you. The color wheel is actually one of my favorites. I did keep I did delete a lot of content from the presentation, just because I wanted to make it simpler, simplified, and so forth. But feel free to come in and share information with anything that you may want, what you need. I think that the value comes in building relationships. And there are going to be other webinars that we're going to be doing. We're going to come back, and I think that by August, we've got a couple of them that we're actually working on and so forth. But like I said, this one was going to be a little bit more of a visual for those of you that keep hearing Karen and Tasha and Daniel and Macarena and Raju and Julio and everybody else. I actually want to thank the SBDC and Brianna for putting all of this together. But yes, Austin, there'll be more conversations out there. We are having more videos. Brianna's going to share this with you. My email is going to be on there. Feel free. Listen, I love to talk to other people. Thank you, Berta. I love to talk to other people and find out what's out there, what's available, and feel free to come in and definitely reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. If there aren't any other last questions, you know what, or anything that anybody else is sharing, thank you, Immaculate, as well, Carmen, Patricia, Berta, once again, everyone. I greatly appreciate your kind thoughts, and we will definitely put more webinars and workshops together.